Happy release day for both Rurouni Kenshin and Hunter x Hunter Volume 2. Today we're going to be focusing on the new Kenshin decks. Some of these decks are pretty high on the current Asia tier list, and they have 43 titles in their game, which is 32 additional sets than the English version. Not even including Volume 2 sets that we don't even have. We're coming up on our 1-year anniversary, but the Asia version of the game is currently celebrating their 2.5-year anniversary, and this set was released not too long ago for them. So, as always, we will be checking out the Japan list to see how they're playing the decks, and this time I will be showing you some cards afterwards as some potential changes you may want to test out when you're looking into these decks. It's always best to test and play to your style and comfortability. Lastly, I want to show you the card Bandai decided to keep from us. I'm actually not sure why this card was chosen, as there were two absolutely more powerful cards they could have hit in the deck to bring down the power level, but this was what they decided to not print in English. Let's check it out. If there are no cards on your field, reduce the required energy of this card in your hand by 2 red energy. Yahiko has Step and the active trigger, which is very good because you can play him out on the front line as your first card as a blocker, and then just step him back before they can even get rid of the card. So you can always pretty much guarantee that energy. Personally, I do think it's a really great card and does assist with the early game pressure, especially with the step. However, Bandai removing this card may have actually made the deck more consistent. Let's take a look at the list and I'll explain. Here we have what I think most people think is going to be the best deck of the set in Red Kenshin. The deck is very aggressive and has an interesting theme to where most of your Kenshins cannot sideline cards. This does allow for some very interesting plays from both players. Let's look at the list. Our first card is the 0-cost Kaoru, who draws and sidelines on play. This card is the replacement for the Yahiko that was removed, and while she's not early pressure and a big blocker, she can help you see your early game curve or your end game pieces to go for the win, thus potentially making the deck more consistent in what it does. Then we play the 0-cost Kenshin, who has Step and the same ability that most of the Kenshins have, which I'll go over now, but skip on the future cards for the sake of not making this video incredibly long. During your turn, your opponent's characters that lose to this character in battle move to their energy line instead of being sidelined. It also mentions when moving the character, if the energy line is full, your opponent chooses 1 card on their energy line and places it into their removal area first. He's also got a get trigger, so you can grab him from life, as well as being a 2k BP body. Then we have the 0-cost Kenshin with the same during your turn ability, but this time he's got 3k BP. The next card is the 1-cost Kenshin, who on play searches for a Kenshin card and sidelines a card if you add to your hand. After that, we have the 2-cost Kaoru, who generates an additional energy while a Kenshin is on the front line and has an activate main ability that I see a lot of people wonder why it is how it is. Let's check that out. Activate main. Once per turn, you can only activate this ability on the turn this character is played. Choose 1 Kenshin Himura on your front line. It gains your opponent cannot choose this character with abilities unless they place 1 card from their hand into their sideline as an additional cost until the end of the turn. Now, I see a lot of people wondering why this wasn't just a when played ability. It essentially allows you to play her, make sure you have the energy, raid a Kenshin after she's played, and then use the ability during that same turn on your raid Kenshin for that extra protection. Next up is the 2-cost Kenshin, who has an extra during your turn ability of losing 1k BP, but he is 4k on your opponent's turn, and a 4k blocker early game is really nice. Then we have the first card that, honestly, if it was removed, the deck would be a lot worse, and that's the 3-cost Color Kenshin. He's got Nullify Impact and the When Played ability to place a card into the sideline from your hand to switch him to active. The amount of times you can get him out early and just have a random 4k way before your opponent even has the time to set up energy can be scary for sure. For our other 3-cost and double energy generator, we have the Kaoru, who can switch herself to resting at the end of your attack phase to draw a card if none of your opponent's cards were sidelined that turn. She also has the When Played ability while on your energy line to place a card into the sideline from your hand to switch her to active, so you can potentially use her draw ability the turn she's played. Then there's the other card that could have easily been removed from the set instead, and that's the Action 2 Kenshin. He's a 4-cost who comes out active and draws and sidelines 1 when he's played, but the good ability is his Activate main. When he's on the front line, once per turn, place 1 Oath Not to Kill card from your sideline into the removal area. If you do, draw a card and gain all Kenshin Himura characters on your field lose during your turn abilities until the end of the turn. This allows all your Kenshins to be able to now sideline characters, thus having your opponents losing characters completely or taking damage in place of that. If used properly, this card can be quite dangerous. Then we move on to our raids, with the first being from the booster set. He's got the when attacking ability. Once per turn, you may place one card from your hand into your sideline. If you do, switch this character to active. And when he's played, you draw a card, so you should always be able to use his ability when he's played. For the next raid, he's got Impact 1 and the when played ability to choose up to one character on your opponent's front line and move it to their energy line. Very sneaky against cards like double blockers or a character with higher BP or nullify impact. Lastly, we have the AP restand and final trigger of the deck, Oath Not to Kill, which pairs with the Action 2 Kenshin, as well as the special for the deck, Ryutsui-sen, that will either move a 5k BP or below character to the backline, or bottom deck a character that is 5k BP or below. Overall, the deck is very good at what it does. It's consistent and has a lot of great triggers along with early game aggression. Make sure to watch out for this one in the coming future. I do want to show you one more slightly different list for Red Kenshin that focuses less on the Action 2 Kenshin, who allows your Kenshins to sideline cards, and instead focuses on the draw power of the deck. The deck cuts 2 of the 2-cost Kenshin and 1 of the Action 2 Kenshin, who are all raid targets, for the 2-cost Hiten Mitsurugi Ryu. It has 2 abilities. The first is to choose a character on your opponent's frontline and rest it, allowing you to go for more attacks, and the second is to draw a card if this is the card you discard off of a Red Kenshin card. There are 4 different Kenshins in the deck who have that ability to discard this card, so it can draw you that extra card pretty consistently. The big drawback of the card is it has no trigger. Now, which version of the deck is actually better is still yet to be seen. Let me know in the comments what you think. Next up are some cards you may want to test out if you're going to play this deck. Depending on how you like to play the game, these cards might be for you. Definitely let me know if you're going to try any of these out and if you like them or not. Next up, we have the Red Sanosuke and Yahiko deck. This is a deck that requires you to really know what you're doing and make sure to plan ahead for the right abilities. First up, we have the 0-cost Sanosuke with the Get trigger, as well as the 1-cost Sanosuke who's got an active trigger and 2500 BP. For the only 2-cost in the deck, we play the Yahiko, who can gain 1k BP by paying an AP for his Activate main ability, and when attacking, you may place one card from your hand into your sideline. If you do, choose up to one character on your field that has not attacked this turn and switch it to active. He's also the color trigger of the deck. Next up is the 3-cost Sanosuke, who's got double energy. He gains 1k BP on your turn, and when he's on the energy line, once per turn at the end of an attack by a character on your field, you may place one card from your hand into your sideline. If you do, choose up to one character on your front line that has not attacked this turn, and you may swap it with this character. That pairs nicely with the Yahiko being able to switch him to active if he's been played that turn to push for the damage in the early game. For the next 3 costs with double energy, we have Sunan, who on play can do one of 2 things. Choose up to one resting Sanosuke Sagara on your front line and switch it to active, or you may switch to resting one active Sanosuke on your front line. If you do, choose up to one character on your opponent's front line and switch it to resting. This can pair really nicely if you have 2 in one turn, being able to use both abilities when pairing with other effects. For the top end of the deck, we have the 4-cost Red Saito, who when attacking gains impact for the turn if you switch an active character on your field to resting. This ability pairs really nicely within the deck. Hard to go wrong with a card that can pretty much always have impact. Essentially, you'll want to switch a small character to resting, giving the Saito impact, swing with the Yahiko, switching it back to active, then swapping the 3-cost Sanosuke up to the front line, swing with him, swing with Saito, and you're having a good time. Then we have the Action 2 Sanosuke, who plays himself active and has 2 abilities. If he's chosen to be rested by an opponent's ability, he switches himself to active. He's also got the Wind Plate ability. This character gains your opponent must block this character's attacks if able until the end of the turn. Now, him switching back to active is important against a lot of decks, as well as yellow color triggers. Just remember, against the yellow color trigger, it remains rested the next time it would switch to active, so the Sanosuke won't actually switch to active unless something else happens, like an active trigger or the end of the turn, where he would normally be switched to active by game mechanics. Then for the last character of the deck, we have the 5-cost Raid Sanosuke, who has damage 2, nullify impact, and the ability when he attacks and is blocked, he gains 1k BP and impact until the end of the turn. This means that if you block this Sanosuke with a character who has 5k BP, he will win the battle and deal a damage to you with the impact going through. He also draws a card on play to add insult to injury. Definitely be careful with this card when it hits the field. Now, you may be wondering how this deck finds all these cards. Well, Akabeko helps with that, being able to add any character to your hand from the top 3 cards of your deck, and if it was not a Sanosuke, you'll have to sideline a card from your hand. Then the deck plays the AP Restand and Final Trigger. This one doesn't actually matter which one you play like the other deck, but since it's Sanosuke themed, you might as well play this one. And then the 4-cost special of the deck, Mastery of 2 Layers, which can only be used if Sanosuke is on your field to sideline a character with 5k or less BP. If you want to switch a Sanosuke to resting on your field, you can choose to remove the card instead though. Overall, very cool deck and interesting playstyle for sure. I'm excited to see what this one does. And if you want some other cards to potentially throw in the deck, these might be a good place to start, having another name and 4K, as well as a card that boosts BP and gives impact to a Sanosuke. Again, let me know if you prefer these cards in your list. Moving on to the Oniwaban group. You may notice this list might be a bit low on the 0 cost, but I'll get to that here shortly. Definitely let me know if some of these ratios need to be adjusted at all. Jumping into the list, we start with Hyotoko, who draws a card when sidelined if Aoshi Shinomori is on your field. Speaking of, we have the 0 cost Aoshi, who draws and discards on play and has an active trigger. Then we play the 1 cost Bashimi, who can add a Megami or Oniwaban group affinity card to your hand. Megami is not played in this specific list, but we will talk about her later. Next is the 1 cost Aoshi, who has the during your turn ability to gain 1k BP. 3k is nice as a 1-drop. Then the card that is similar to the Yahiko we talked about earlier, we have the 2 cost SR Misao. If no cards are on the field, she can reduce her required energy by 2 while in the hand. Very nice ability, especially with her when played ability to check the top 3 cards of your deck, reorder them, and even sideline one if you want to. Next is the 2 cost color trigger Aoshi, who, if played by a character or event ability, will draw you a card. Then we have the 2 cost double energy generating Misao to make raiding slightly easier. After that, we just have the 4Ks, starting with Shishio. If active and on the front line, he can sacrifice himself to save one of your Aoshis, essentially making it so you attack with him last in case of a special trigger or something. Then the first 4K Aoshi, who can switch himself to active when he's played by switching another Oniwaban group affinity on your front line to resting. Most of the time you may want to switch another Aoshi on the front line to resting so you can raid on it. Speaking of, we have our first raid Aoshi. This one is from the starter deck and has Nullify Impact. He's also got the when played ability to look at the top 3 cards of your deck, reveal up to 1 Oniwaban group affinity card or event card with Kaiten Kenbu in its card name among them and add it to your hand. Place the remaining cards on the bottom of your deck in any order. Then for the last Aoshi, we have another raid who on play gains 1k BP for the turn and has the activate main ability to play a base card of this raided character set to active onto your field. It gains this character cannot attack, and if this character is active at the end of your attack phase, sideline it until the end of the turn. Now you may be wondering, why would I want to do that? This allows you to really just raid multiple times, and remember, even though this Aoshi would lose its base card and not have its raid box abilities active anymore, the when played ability already resolved. This means he will retain the 1k BP boost until the end of the turn. Then we move on to the events, starting with the 2 cost movement of Flowing Water. It says play up to 1 Aoshi card with 2 or less required energy and 1 AP cost from your hand or sideline set to active on your field. That character gains this character cannot attack, and if this character is active at the end of your attack phase, sideline it until the end of the turn. If you played a card from your hand, draw a card. This pairs really nicely with the 2 cost Aoshi or the 0 cost Aoshi to draw you additional cards. Then if you still have an AP, you can raid on top of it, gaining more momentum. Lastly, this deck plays Proof as the strongest, which is the AP restand and final trigger, as well as Kaiten Kenbu 6 successions. Now this card was chosen as more of an aggressive strategy, not really focusing on removing cards, but instead attacking more. Let's go ahead and get into some cards that you could play instead. If you need more zeros, you could try the Misao. There is also the Megami that could technically be searched, but I don't think it's better than this card with the trigger. And then you have the 2 cost double energy generation Misao. Hanya could also be played as he's a pseudo 4K and can also play an Aoshi when he's sidelined. Then you have the normal Kaiten Kenbu, which is the normal special, which will gain BP range to sideline based on how many Aoshis you have on the field. As for the next blue deck, we have Seijuro, Hiko, and Kenshin, or Blue Kenshin, or Master and Student. This deck is very focused on the 2 raids and can deal a lot of damage very quickly if you're not ready for it. Starting off with the 0 cost Seijuro. He gives a Kenshin 1k BP when he's played. The 0 cost Shinta, who is treated as Kenshin, and that's it for the zeros since this played the Misao we talked about earlier. Next is the 1 cost Kenshin with Nullify Impact, and can rearrange the top 2 cards of your deck, essentially both the 1 cost Roy and Riza from Blue Full Metal Alchemist. Moving on to the 3 cost Kenshin, he's the color trigger of the deck and has double energy. His activate main ability can be used on the energy line once per turn to place 1 Will to Live card from your sideline to the bottom of your deck. If you do, move this character to your front line and give it 1000 BP until the end of the turn. Then the 3 cost Seijuro, who personally I think has an ability that is slightly too expensive. He says this card cannot be played onto your front line and can only be moved to your front line using its ability. When played, look at the top 2 cards of your deck, place any number of them on top of your deck in any order, then place any remaining cards into your sideline. Activate main, place 2 cards from your hand into your sideline. Once per turn, you can only activate this ability if Kenshin Himura is on your field. Move this character to the other line. It's definitely tough, especially since in the late game you might have lost your big characters since your opponent can just hold their specials until you end up getting them out, and discarding 2 cards potentially multiple times just feels terrible. This deck also plays the 3-cost Sight Training. This will help you search the top 3 for a Kenshin or Seijuro, and if you added a card with 3 or less required energy, you do not have to sideline a card from your hand. Then for the top end of the deck, this deck plays the 4-cost Seijuro, who on your turn gains impact if you use the special or final of the deck that we will go over in a moment. After that, we have the 5-cost Kenshin, who gains double attack if he has 6k or more BP. He's also got an activate main ability to give himself 1k BP if you activate the final trigger of the deck that turn. Then he has a when attacking ability to draw a card if you have 3 or less cards in hand. So if you have double attack on him for the turn, you can potentially draw twice off that ability. For our last character, we have the 7-cost Seijuro Hiko. He's got 5 different abilities. First is damage 2. The second, he cannot be blocked by characters with 2k BP or less. During your turn, he gains 3k BP. When he's played, you can add 1 event card from your sideline to your hand, which is nice if you had to discard for training. And lastly, he has an activate main ability to give another character on your field 1k BP for the turn. Overall, he's a very good card, but can be tough to get out with how the deck plays. Moving into your events that you can grab back with Seijuro's ability, we have the AP Restand and final trigger of the deck, Will to Live. Make sure if you're using this deck, you are playing this one specifically and not the other one from the Oniwaban deck. This card is needed for 3 different cards in the deck to have their abilities work. Then we have the special Kazuryusen, which is a nice special that not only can sideline a character, but can also give your Kenshin that extra 1k BP, so it can potentially be a double attack or just another 4k. Now for this deck, there were a few cards that I could potentially see going in the deck. The 0-cost Megami simply because it's more double energy at an early cost, and same with the Misao. Lastly, you could play the Sakabato Shinuchi to allow all of your Kenshins to be at a minimum of 4k while being able to restand your AP to use another card as well. I want this deck to be good, so I'm going to be trying out some different lists, but if you're having any success with something specific, I'd love to hear about it. Now on to our final color of the video, starting with Shishio and the 10 Swords. This deck takes advantage of manipulating the top card of your deck. Let's hop right in. The 0-cost Seijuro Saito is your get trigger, while the 0-cost Cho is your draw and sideline for filtering. The deck also plays the 0-cost Kamatari to give a Shishio, Yumi, or 10 Swords affinity 1k BP for the turn. Next up is Yumi, who is 1 cost and will also draw and sideline a card, but when she's sidelined from the field, if Shishio is on your front line, she can rest a character. This is especially good for late game to save on taking a life or losing a crucial character. The 1-cost Seijuro says, when this card is placed from your deck into your sideline by one of your abilities, you may place 1 card from your hand into your sideline. If you do, play this card from your sideline set to resting on your field. You can only activate this Seijuro Saito ability 1 time each turn. This ability will go nicely with another ability we will talk about soon. Then we have the 2-cost Hoji, who gains energy generation if you have 3 or more Shishio, Yumi, or 10 Swords affinity cards on your field. And then we get to the actual double energy generators, which is the 3-cost Seijuro, who when played searches for a Shishio, Yumi, or 10 Swords, and sidelines a card if you added 1 to your hand. Next is our first Shishio, who gains impact if he has 5k or more BP and has the activate main ability while he's on the front line. Once per turn, you can place the top card of your deck into your sideline. This character gains BP equal to 500 multiplied by the required energy value of the card placed into your sideline with this ability until the end of the turn. This will go really nicely with an ability that's coming up soon. Next, we have the 4-cost Seijuro, who has the activate main ability on the front line to once per turn look at the top card of your deck and place it on top of your deck or into the sideline. This is important, and here's why. The Raid Seijuro is next, and he says, when this card is placed from your deck into your sideline by one of your abilities, if you have the required energy for it, you may perform Raid with it from your sideline. In his Raid box, he has, when played, if this character was played from anywhere other than your hand, draw up to 1 card and give this character impact 1 until the end of the turn. He also has an activate main ability if on the front line. Place the top card from this rated character on top of your deck. You can only use this Seijuro Saito ability 1 time each turn. So if you end up raiding this card, you can use his activate main ability to place it on the top of your deck and then pair it with the 3-cost Shishio to have him gain 2k BP and impact, and then raid the card again with his ability for free. For our last character, we have the man himself, the Action 2 Makoto Shishio. If you place 1 Shishio, Yumi, or 10 Swords affinity card from your hand into the sideline, he can be placed on your field active, and when he's played, you can place the top card of your deck into your sideline. choose up to one character on your opponent's front line with BP equal to or less than 1000 multiplied by the required energy value of the card you placed into your sideline and sideline it. This ability can also pair really nicely with the raid Seijuro, placing that raid into the sideline to sideline a 4K or less and then raiding Seijuro afterwards. Lastly, we have the events. First up is Phantom of the Bakumatsu, that can place a Shishio, Yumi, or 10 Swords affinity card on top of your deck and then switch your AP back to active. Then we have the AP restand and final trigger of the deck. We'll start taking this country. And we also have the special of the deck, which is the 10 Swords summoned. This one can sideline a card based on the number of Shishio, Yumi, or 10 Swords affinity cards you have on your field multiplied by 1000 BP. As for some cards to potentially consider if you're looking at this deck, I think these might be the top candidates. There definitely are a few more cards, but most don't have a trigger and weren't really as good as these. Just make sure that if you are replacing certain cards, that these will truly benefit the strategy more than what you're taking out. And finally, for our last deck of the video, we have Purple Saito, or the Affinityless deck. This one is a top deck in Japan at the moment, and I'm sure will hold its own here as well. The strategy really is quite unique and can really catch you off guard. Starting with the 0-cost Saito, that is the get trigger of the deck. Then we have the 0-cost Kenshin, who on play can look at the top 2 cards of your deck, place up to 1 purple card with no affinities among them into your sideline, and place the remaining cards on top of your deck in any order. Then we have the 1-cost Saito, who can search for a Kenshin, Saito, or Sanosuke and add it to your hand. As for the reason this deck also plays a low number of 0-cost, the 2-cost color Saito is just like the Yahiko we talked about, as well as the Misao. He reduces his energy requirement when there's no cards on your field. He also has the when attacking ability to return 1 Kenshin, Sanosuke, or other Saito on your front line to have him gain 1500 BP for the turn. Now, removing your own character just so he's a 4K may not seem that great, but it will make sense later. Next, we get into the double energy generators with the Kenshin, who, when active, gains additional energy generation, as well as the 3-cost Saito, who, like the blue Kirito from Sword Art Online, can choose a Kenshin, Saito, or Sanosuke in your field and move it to the other line, essentially making it so you can be a bit more aggressive while opening up a space in the energy line for more double energy cards. For the last double energy generator, we have Kenshin, who can also gain 1k BP if he uses his once per turn activate main ability to place 1 card from your hand into the sideline. Next is the Saito from the starter deck. When attacking, you can draw a card, and if you do, he will remain resting the next time he would switch to active. He is a 4k body with a draw trigger, as well as a name for your raid, so he's just okay in the deck, in my opinion. Speaking of raids, we have our first one with the 4-cost Saito. He has Nullify Impact and cannot be blocked by characters with 2k or less BP. When he's played, he can look at the top 5 cards of your deck for a Kenshin, Saito, or Sanosuke as well. Then we have the 4-cost Action 2 Kenshin, who comes out active onto the field and reduces the AP cost of the next Saito with 3 or less energy you use from your hand by 1. This is so you can play the Kenshin, play the 3-cost double energy Saito for free, and then raid a Saito now that you have 6 energy. And here we have the 6-cost raid Saito. This guy has Impact 1 as well as the Wind Plate ability that if you have no cards with affinities on your field, this character gains all abilities listed below until the end of the turn. 1000 BP, and this character can attack from the energy line. And when this character attacks from the energy line, move it to the front line, it gains Snipe until the end of the turn. Remember, the ability to attack from the energy line, move it to the front line, and have it gain Snipe all happens before your opponent can choose if they want to block or take a damage directly to life. Also, remember, this is just a Wind Plate ability until the end of the turn. He will only have impact the turn after he's played, even if he swaps back to the back line and attacks again from the energy line on another turn. Then the AP restand and final trigger for the deck, along with the special trigger Gototsu, which is just your normal special to sideline a 5k or below while Saito is on your field. Now, honestly, there's not really many other cards that could really go into this list. If you think you're in a dire need of some energy generation, consider throwing this in at maybe 2 or 3 copies. He has no affinities and is another 0-cost to prevent bricking. He doesn't have a trigger, but generating 2 energy as a 0-cost is good when you really need to get to 3. That's all the decks I have for you today. Make sure to let me know what deck you're going to play and how you think all of these decks will hold up at the Los Angeles as well as Canada regionals coming up in October. Both of these regionals will be for Kenshin and Hunter, or October 25 format, so I'm excited to see if the events will be similar in top decks or completely different. Good luck to everybody who plays in those, and good luck on your pulls for these sets. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I appreciate everyone watching, and I'll see you in the next video.